So for the 200th episode of Life Stories, I asked my dad if he would interview me on my life story. And then I thought it would be helpful, as well as my brother's had such a big impact on me and business and those sort of things, and my life in general. I've come down to his paddle club, which is the amazing centre that he's got in South Manchester, and he asked me questions around the start of Physiquipe because he was a part of that journey, and what the plans for the future are. So I hope you enjoy both episodes, and please let me know in the comments below.
Hi Andrew, I'm really looking forward to this, but I'm not quite sure where it will go, but hopefully it's going to be good for both of us. One of the thoughts I had was that I've known you longer than anybody else on earth, because when you were born, it was a cesarean and your mum was unconscious. So the first person to see you other than the medical staff was me. So I've had 46 years of you in my life, which has been fantastic. With some ups and downs. So what I just wanted to know was, how did you go from being that little boy with all that lovely energy through some rocky periods and end up as the owner and managing director of Physiquipe? So that's one thing I'd like to know. And the second thing is, what was it that you have got out of that experience as a person, not just as a business owner? So maybe we can explore that today.
Yeah.
Okay with that?
Sounds good. Some big questions there, which I know we like to talk about that stuff over tea and dinner anyway. So
Yeah.
this is like a normal one of our conversations.
So my thought of you then, of your early life, you were a gorgeous little bundle of energy, really cute, full of enthusiasm, bright, a pleasure to be with. Then you get to secondary school, and after a little while, your confidence seemed to dip. You didn't seem to quite know what to do. And so I just wondered about those experiences, what that was like for you in those early days.
I think I've got really, if I look back at my whole childhood, I loved it. I really think I did do when I think of it. Now, I think probably you're right, going into secondary school, I did find that transition weird. For whatever reason, did lose confidence or whatever it would be. But before that, I think I did really enjoy all of it. I had loads of mates. Living in Southport was a great place to grow up. We'd play loads of sports, really good relationship with you and Mum and Dave. Like we'd play together a lot. And I'm still good friends with loads of my friends and Dave's friends. So I've got really fond memories as a child. And yeah, going to Birkdale sixth form, I think I started off actually pretty confident there, and I don't know what it was particularly, but I did feel like I did lose my way a little bit. And I don't really know what that was, really. I still enjoyed it, but when you look back, like watching adolescence recently, it does take you back to some of those things, and there were some pretty unpleasant times going to a sort of mixed, in terms of roughness, school. And I really didn't appreciate the lessons. Like now I love learning, I love all of that stuff, but at the time, I just don't think I was that interested, really. I loved doing the sport, playing basketball, playing football. I really did enjoy that, and I liked some of the teachers. And then I feel like that pretty much, I kind of bumbled into A-levels just because that's what everyone else did. And I think that pretty much carried on, and my confidence definitely didn't improve when I went into sixth form. And that was maybe going in with like girls and stuff. It was a bit of a strange thing, and I think I did feel really out of my comfort zone there. And I think that lasted for probably quite a long period of time, I would say, even throughout university. I think when I got to know people, then I was really good and confident I was in. But until I did, I was quite a shy person.
So what I observed of you as a child is that you were very bright, And when you focused, you were exceptional. And I still remember that year where you had to answer every question right in a year to get £5. And you were so determined to get that £5. And you did it, which was amazing. And you'd phone me up at work to say, when are you home to test me? And I'd be working sometimes till 8 o'clock at night and still be at work. But you'd say, no, you've got to get back. I need to be tested. So you were absolutely on it then. And it was maybe the year after that things began to lose it a little. But that's also understandable, I think, as you reach your teenage years. But at some point, you've got to start thinking about adult life, and that requires decisions about what you're going to do. So why did you go and do a degree in sports science?
I think, again, if I think back to KGV, the sixth form I was at, I'd say it was a high achieving college, so there was a lot of driven people there. And I don't know what it was, I didn't enjoy, there was something I didn't enjoy about the way it was delivered, or I think maybe even revising. I've never been a long format person, I've not really liked that. However, everyone else was going to university, so it was like, well, that's just what you do. I think Mum's always said that she wanted me to go to university, wanted Dave and I to go to university. So it was like, well, that's just what you do. Everyone, all of my friends were doing the same thing, so it was just, there wasn't even a consideration, I don't think, in my mind. But I didn't really try hard on my A-levels. I don't think I did anyway at that point. I certainly wasn't engaged in it at all. Probably just, it would come out in being a bit naughty in classes and sort of messing around and things, which was just immaturity really, but it wasn't really tolerated at that place, so they didn't really try and support you through that. It was like, well, if you're not going to do it, don't do it. So I started off doing French, didn't I, and then stopped doing that, which is a real shame, but I wasn't really engaged with it. And I think that's one of the things that I have. Sometimes if I'm not good at something, I don't really like, I like doing things that I'm good at, which is something that I'm aware of, and it's probably not a good quality, but I like doing things. I find it really frustrating if I can't do something. And then I remember, like, when we were looking at universities, it was a struggle. It was like, what are we going to do? I remember going for drinks in Southport, and all my friends were like celebrating, and I was looking at clearing and deciding what to do. And again, I didn't have a clue really, and I'm sure would have driven you absolutely mad, because you'd be like getting frustrated and like trying to get me to do stuff, which would then make me rebel even more and just be like, stay out of it. So you sort of almost, you're being told to do something, but that, because it's coming from you and Mum, that frustrates me even more, which still maybe does occasionally now as well.
No, it doesn't. You don't frustrate me at all now.
No, I meant you frustrating me. But...
Oh yeah, well, there's definitely that. Yeah, and I remember that very clearly, those times. But I don't think that you're any different to many people. But then there's others who've got very clear goals, and they know exactly what they want. And you didn't appear to know what you wanted. So when did you know what you wanted?
Yes, even that now, like even now, I've been running Physiquipe for 13 years, and there's loads of, I get very excited on things. I think, so I did university, again, similar sort of thing, I would say, to sixth form, where I was there, but I wasn't that engaged really. You've got even less support than you did do it at A-levels there. I made some amazing friends there. It was great. Like, we were playing football all the time at Alsager. It was brilliant. Like, really bonded well with a good set of people there. So I loved loads of aspects of it. Still, fundamentally, I don't think was confident within myself. And then I remember coming back and living here for a bit before then planning to go travelling, which again was another thing that was what people did, because I really did not have a clue at all of what I was going to do. And I think it was before I went travelling that I went down and stayed with Dave, because Dave was doing really well with his management consultancy, or he'd done well in terms of roles. And I remember like going to London and staying with him and going to speak to some recruitment agents, and I felt so like, out of my depth, and just for one, I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do, and also I don't think they were looking at my CV and thinking, well, this is someone that we really want. And then you go in, and I feel like I was so immature and lacking in. I think I am a different person now, but I'd be lacking conviction and confidence and assertiveness. Just again, just from feeling insecure, I think. From when I was engaging with these people, if you were in an interview, you'd just be not selling myself. Like I remember when going for to do MLS football camps, and I think it's pretty much unheard of that you would get rejected from the interview, but they actually said, no, we don't think you're the right fit for it. And I remember being so just, I don't know, like a bit pathetic is what I would be. If someone was interviewing me, the guy was asking me what I'd do in certain scenarios, and I was like, oh, well, you know, if they wanted to do it, then I'd do it. If they don't, then I wouldn't. And it's like, that's just not what anyone wants to hear, who's going to be giving you their kids' responsibility. And Dave had to actually speak to one of the top guys there and say, why has Andy not got through? So he sorted me out on that one, and that was a great trip. But if it was left down to me, I wouldn't have gotten to do football coaching in America, which was a great experience. So that was quite a consistent theme, that I just wouldn't push myself forward.
Okay, and it makes me feel what an inadequate parent I was to allow you to be like that.
Well,
Or do I blame your mum? I don't think so.
well, it's definitely not. Yeah, no, but I don't know what it was. But like then you say, when I did get onto something, I was on it.
No,
And
you were honestly, when you were on something, and I saw that so many times, that when you focused, you were fantastic. The Spanish one where you weren't interested, and a week in Spain,
yeah,
and we wanted that experience to be exposing you to Spanish. You came back and you were transformed, and I see that over and over again with you. Now you seem to be like that all the time. And that's impressive. And I think, so from a parent's point of view, I think, okay, maybe it was a bit of a long haul getting there, but we got there.
yeah.
And again, maybe that's human nature, and some of them will achieve very early on and fall by the wayside, and you're just doing it the other way.
Yeah, and I think that's probably right, really. Even now, though, I like knowing what I'm doing, even though it's my company and I can do whatever I want to. Sometimes that's not always a good thing. So if I've got a focus and a task and I'm really clear on what I'm doing, I know I'm good. And it's like I just do it and I'll be energetic. And as long as I buy into it, then I'm all in, and it's authentic, and I'm genuine in the way that I'm doing it. If I don't, then that's when the challenge comes in, really. But yes, certainly, I think there's definitely traits that I had then that occasionally I'll have now. But one of those still will be that I'll reflect and I'll be really frustrated about something when I'm probably quite hard on myself for not being able to do something, or having not done something, or not doing as well as I think I could be doing. And that's a trait that I've got as well, still to this day, and that's similar to that. So I've tried to be more reflective on what I have done and what I have achieved, and that's really been helpful for me, is to look back and think, God, where was I? Like when we're talking about this stuff now, if I think of where I was at 25 even, like I was absolutely going nowhere, really.
And I agree, and that was frustrating at that point, because at that age you expect a lot more than you were able to give. But then something happened, and I still remember that discussion. It was about sales, and you were not seeing at that point your experiences as relevant to sales. All these life experiences, working in shops or whatever you'd done, you were minimizing it, and that was a feature of you in those early years, of dismissing whatever experiences you'd had. But you did get that job with IPRS, and that was transformational. Tell me about that.
So kind of joining up between university. So I went travelling, amazing. It was away for a year, loved it, and I think that helped a little bit with confidence. But still, I was still lacking it. Came back, was remember being here for the 2002 World Cup or at the Old House. And again, I remember feeling bumming around a little bit there as well. It felt like working at M&S, which I enjoyed, but it wasn't really going anywhere. Then going to over, again, Dave plays a big part in a lot of this stuff. He was doing his masters, said come over. Moving to Manchester was a big thing, but again, I think I did get a job in, which was really not well paid. Like it was, I think it was like, the original job was 9.5 grand, and I was obviously getting a little bit more persuasive then, managed to get up to it. I think it was 11 or it was 12 grand, I think, and they said they saw me as being like the future manager of this office, but still not a lot of money.
Was that Klaus Kobeck?
That was at Klaus Kobeck. So I think that I think did have a big positive impact for me, because I was given some responsibility, and I was good. Again, when I went in, I was good with people, and some of the basic things that I think I'm good at is that I'm really reliable. I'll work, I'll do what's needed for it, but I'll turn up. I don't really get ill. I'm not going to be messing around and doing things like that. I take it seriously, and I feel like I am actually a really good employee, and I feel like I was a really good employee in most places. That unfortunately went into administration, but I feel like I did learn a lot from that, because I was recruiting people, I was managing, and I was just getting a bit more confident in me. And living away in Manchester with Dave, I was really enjoying that, and it was exciting being in the big city.
And now you mentioned that, I can see that was a transformational as well. And I was very impressed with what you did there, because it was quite a menial position, and within a very short time, you were given responsibility. And so, yeah, I did like that. So how did you go from that to IPRS?
Well, then after that, losing that job, I had another period of kind of just nothing really. I was like working at the council, did a bit of stuff for Dave in his company, and it was like the council stuff. It was frustrating, because I was good. Like I was turning up, I was on it, I was capable. I knew I was capable, but these people in the council, it was bizarre. Say strange people is what I looked at it as, and they were getting these jobs I saw them as well-paid jobs. Like they were, I don't know, mid-20s up to 30 grand. But I was looking at these people, it's like, how on earth am I not being able to get something? And I couldn't. I was applying for stuff and I wasn't getting them. And it was like, what? Am I missing something with me here? Because I did feel like I could do it. And yeah, I remember we went away to Germany for 2 or 3 weeks with Dave and one of our Aussie mates, which was good. And then when we came back, that's when I had that call. I remember it was outside this house.
Right.
They phoned, and you and I went for a walk, and this guy phoned me up. Yeah, we've been passed on your CV. Someone's recommended you for this role. And I was like, absolutely, what? I've no idea what this has come from. And we had that conversation. Again, I remember it clearly, like, well, do I tell them I've not had any sales experience? And you asking me, well, trying to almost coach me through it, well, what have you done that you could say has? And I mean, and this is the ironic thing now, is that I talk about this all the time, about sales, and, you know, in healthcare, people almost, it's a dirty word, it's a sleazy word, all of those things, whereas everyone every day is selling. Everyone's doing something to convince someone of something else. And so, I mean, I'd literally worked on the shop floor. I'd managed a sales department within that Klaus Kobeck was a watch firm. I'd done like stuff on telesales in Australia. So I'd done all of this stuff, but I still couldn't really join the dots as to how was this going to go into selling this medical equipment. I remember looking at the website, looking at the tech, and just thinking, I don't think I'm what they need. So that was already in my mind. But then the guy seemed completely unfazed, this recruitment agent. He said, right, well, just meet the bosses in Manchester. Go and meet him. Met him at the Institute of Directors. So I met Dave Bingham, and just instantly, I knew he liked me. We had about an hour, we're having a bit of a laugh. I really liked Dave straight away. He was just a bit of a joker. But I just liked him. It was instant chemistry, I guess. Then they invited me down to Ipswich to go and meet the rest of the team. So I remember borrowing Dave's car, driving down there for the day. And like one of the things that they said on that day was, we went out for lunch with the FD and Jude, who was the kind of the administrator or manager of Physiquipe, but that was a part of IPRS, was that when we were there, I ate like loads. So I'd driven to Ipswich, so it was like 4 hours each way. But I remember like I was the only one ordering desserts, and like Gary, who was the FD, was like, "Oh, I absolutely loved that. We want our salesperson to come in here and be like confident." And so I was like, right, yeah, that's.
And did you order all those things to demonstrate your confidence?
Definitely not. No, I just was
You
like,
didn't realise
you
didn't realise you were selling yourself just doing that.
No. And I think because of the relationship with Dave, they were nice people, and I think I felt comfortable with them.
And I remember you getting that job and was really thrilled that you had. And then you came along with a car, which was better than any car I'd ever had. And you said it was embarrassing or something. It was an estate car.
It was a Mazda estate.
Mazda 6.
It was a great car.
And it was a fantastic car, I thought.
It was a bit like a hearse.
And I thought, well, it was like a hearse, but it was better than any car I'd had. And I thought, he's being a bit picky here that he's complaining about the car. So you'd sort of changed then, it seemed to me now, sort of an expectation, which on reflection is the right thing, and that's not necessarily me. And so I need to learn from you on this. And still remember when at the beginning you had to sell and you'd never done it in that way before, from cold sales, going out, and it was a bit of a struggle. But then something happened where you began to become successful.
Well, I think taking it back a bit further, I think a big thing for me was Dave.
Dave Bingham?
No, Dave Thomas.
Oh, Dave Thomas, right.
My brother. He was just interested in business, wasn't he? Like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I remember him reading that, and that's what made us get into university properties, or some of the properties that you ended up getting involved in. And just him talking about all of that businessy stuff.
Right.
That got me interested in that. Dave Chateau as well, his friend from university, and a couple of his other friends were really interested in that bit. Tony Robbins, all of those things. And that had an impact on me. I'd never really thought of a business or anything like that, but I remember Dave talking about that stuff, and he was quite ahead of his game with a lot of that stuff, I think. So I think that was being sewed in the back of my mind. Tony Robbins is essentially hardcore sales, albeit he's doing it from his motivation and that sort of thing. So I started getting into that. And then going into working at RPRS, I remember the first week I really did feel out of my depth. I was down in Ipswich for a week, went out and saw people, and I didn't have a clue about any of it really. It's like I didn't have any experience of sales, didn't really get any training at all other than going out with Dave. I think they'd got rid of a couple of people before me, so there was no structure for me at all, which, as we said before, probably not ideal for me. It's like, there you go, there's a big database, crack on. But they had a good product in Biodex, so there were opportunities. But I remember going into Man U was one of my first meetings. Going into Dave and I drove up to Celtic. It was just, I couldn't believe, like being a massive football fan, that I was able to be in front of these people. Like I've just been at Blackburn Rovers today, and that was one of my early ones, seeing Dave Fever. And like straight away I'd gone from what I felt like pretty much no credibility, no real status, to being, you're in the room with these people of Man U that were absolutely flying at that time. And I'm then in there on a sort of peer-to-peer business level. And it did feel like, this is incredible. For one, it was like massive imposter syndrome, but also, how exciting is this? And I remember just having I had one before I had the BlackBerry, but I'd gone from nothing to having a work laptop, a BlackBerry, a car, and just think, my God, this is amazing. And like expenses, so you're driving around. It was just, it was tricky at first. Probably, I would say. I mean, you may be able to remember more than me. The first 6 months or so was tricky, but I also did think, God, this is amazing. Like what I had then, I really did feel like this is not that I've made it, but what a massive jump that was from where I'd been.
And from my perspective, it seemed to be the case, and you were transformed as an individual, really, and you became much more confident, and that you had this expectation now of people and what you were entitled to. And so eventually you got a BMW, and you said, I've always wanted a BMW before I was 30. And I was really shocked by that, because you've not been brought up in a household where we valued cars at all. So there must have been something in you that you wanted these things that was not what we as a family ever expected.
Yeah, I think I've always liked stuff like that. I think I've always liked nice things, whether it was clothes or phone, car. I really don't think I'm extravagant with what I do, but I do like specific nice things. Like I've just ordered my third car so I've had that one BMW, which must have been like 15 years ago, then another one 8 years later. So I'm efficient with it, but I also do like nice stuff, and I like to have nice things.
And I still remember you as a teenager like that. And I remember you buying a North Sales coat, I think it was, and I couldn't believe how much you spent on it. However, in the end, it was a great value, because after you'd finished with it, you passed it on to me, and I wore it for years. So
Well,
actually,
that is a consistent theme, isn't it, with my clothes?
it was a good purchase in the end. It wasn't so extravagant, didn't fall to bits.
But I think that's what I've been like, is that I really do value stuff. I always like the latest phone, and I don't know why it is really. I like it.
But I admire that quality, and I still remember when there was a discussion about if you were going to see a client and you needed a car, what car would you choose? And this was just for me as a non-salesperson, and my automatic thought is I'd go for the cheap car to save money. But what I was told in the end is absolutely not. You've got to go and impress the client by proving your success. So my mindset was very different, and it seems to me that you grasp that principle, and I didn't grasp that principle, and I would still feel uncomfortable doing it. But you actually can see beyond that, and it's not being shallow. It's actually recognising what's needed, I think.
I don't know if that is if I do it to show people. I think it probably is a bit of a status ego thing, probably a little bit. But I just like having it. Like I'd be excited. I still look at my car now and think, I really love this. And it's, I think, like we were saying there, it's expensive if you look at it in one way, but if you absolutely love it and it makes an impact on you, then that's really good.
Yeah.
It's like if that gives you something a bit extra, or the whole point of having money is to be able to enjoy life, really, isn't it?
Okay, so you went to IPRS. How long were you there for, and what happened?
So with IPRS, so I was there for 5.5 years in total. I mean, again, that did absolutely transform me, and I think I did a really good job for them. Like early on within that, Dave Fever, who was the big man in isokinetics, went over to, it's funny, I've just been at Brock Hall today, and that's where I met Dave, and that had a big impact on it, because Dave was the main man in that. He used a rival system at that point, and I built a really good connection with him, spent a lot of time with him, got on with him really well, ended up going to his wedding, which was, it was nice, and that's essentially what I think I was naturally good at, was just being normal with people, being consistent as well. Like if I said I was going to do something, I'd do it, and that really had a massive impact. So Dave bought a couple of systems from us, which I kind of literally just seen. They're still there, 16 odd years on. We ended up going to New York, and that was another thing which I always liked, was being able to take opportunities that were there and make it work for me. So it was like, I remember saying to Dave Bingham, look, can I take Dave to New York? And he I think he loved the fact I was cheeky enough to ask those things. did the same with when we moved on to working with BTE. I wanted experiences. That's what part of the big thing for me is I like doing interesting things and working on exciting projects. So going to New York with Dave was great, and we built that good relationship, and that was really enjoyed that, and that's set me up for what I'm doing now. There's still people that I'm interacting with that I made those relationships. Then Mark Leather again, Dave, Mark and I went out to the Saudi Premier League before it was even anything like it is now. And that was, I'm not sure it was an enjoyable trip, but it was an interesting one. Having to, Dave, I love Dave Bingham, but yeah, he was hard work for 10 days. And I think he'd acknowledged that. Gary Whiffen was like, the FD there was like, well done for surviving that. But it was good, like again, but even then with Mark Leather, Mark was on that trip with us for that, love Mark. And as a result of that, I ended up playing football for his son's team for a couple of years, which I loved. So I feel like I say genuine relationships. If I'm invested in that, I do invest into other people, and I'm interested in other people.
Yeah,
And that's helped.
but from my point of view, it is a genuine investment. It is not about what can I get out of this. It is something that you feel you want to do, and that makes me, as your dad, feel good. That it's genuine connection rather than one just for self-interest.
I know it definitely is, and it's that's why the stuff in sales, it's all can be about, it's a bit false, it's all that, and my stuff's never been that.
No.
It's about, it is how do we help people, how do we enjoy what you're doing. I think there's so much stuff around where people take themselves so seriously, and I've never enjoyed that at all, whereas how do we do it? We want to do a great job, but how do we do it with some enjoyment and also just do things a bit differently, like going over to BTE for primers training. I'm still great friends with loads of people that I've been over there with.
Where was that? Where did you go to?
So that's Baltimore. So
Okay.
that's we started working with BTE about 6 months into my journey. We'd gone over to Medica, the big trade show in Germany, and again I couldn't believe it when Dave said, "Right, we're going to Germany." I'm like, "Wow, this is amazing." Then he said, "We're signing up with BTE. We're going to Baltimore," and this is before I'd done the other stuff with Dave Fever. So I was like, I couldn't believe I was getting paid to go to Baltimore for a week. When I met the guys there, Chuck, Waldo and Ken, who were the top people at the organisation, I'm still great friends with them now, working with them again. They're coming to my wedding this year. Ken's coming into town this weekend. So I've made lifelong relationships from it with people I really get on with.
And they become friends with me as well.
Yeah, well, no, yeah.
And so I can see the quality of the relationships you get because they're amazing and very respectful with me and your mum. So thank you for that.
Yeah, well, no,
you've spread my world. You've made it bigger and better.
Yeah, and I think with Anicia, who was one of the occupational therapists, hand therapists who came on our first BTE trip. Her daughter's Caitlin, who's on placement with us now.
Right.
So I've just kept in touch with Anicia, bought several systems from us, but also we'll keep in touch on other things as well. I think that's it for me. Is the work bit is great, but I genuinely think when I have a meeting with someone, the work bit is probably about 10 to 20% of what I talk about. And I mean, it depends on how well you know them, and the rest of it is about them and what they're doing. And that's not particularly a tactic. Again, it's just, I think it's interesting to find out and people do like to talk about themselves, and I enjoy listening.
And you're a good listener. That's one of the things I've noticed about you, that much more reflective personality that you've become, and concerned about your own development as well, which is, how did that start to manifest itself? Was that through your friends that introduced you to Anthony Robbins and so on?
I think so. I think it probably is been, I think it's more Dave's friends than my friends, I would say. Really, for some reason, none of my friends have been that way inclined.
No.
So Dave Thomas, Dave Chatou, who, he's got a successful Dasuni company now.
Yeah.
They're RIT, living in America. He was really driven, and he'd set his company up just before I set Physiquipe up. So you can bond over that stuff.
Right. So do you think the fact that he'd done that encourage you to
Oh, for sure,
do
yeah.
it.
Yeah. No, definitely. No, and we still now talk really openly. Another mate, Amir, has done similar things, and you talk about it, and you still, sometimes you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then you're also, this is the best thing I've ever done. And I still, you go through those things, and I don't really mean I don't want to do it anymore. But in that moment, it's like, what am I doing this for? This is like, it's hard work.
Do you think that might apply to every job?
Yeah, no, I'm sure it does.
Just life.
I'm sure it does, but it's when you're in your own mind, and that's why the reflective piece is really important, and that's why like joining Vistage has been helpful. I think a lot of people are maybe closed about some of their things that they find hard, because I actually don't feel like I am closed about things. I'll speak to you and Mum about stuff, Dave, my friends. I do, and even with the team, I'll speak openly about how I'm feeling with things, and that again, that's just part of me, is that I want to be me.
Yeah, and that may be quite unusual actually in a boss, because you don't want to appear uncertain or vulnerable. A lot of people don't. So I think it's quite courageous to do that. And I'm not too sure how many others would take that approach.
Yeah, and it's not. That's just the way I feel, and I feel like I want to do it. That's what I am compelled
Yeah,
to do, and I like to be. I think I am ultimately a very positive and optimistic person, but also I think I am realistic with stuff as well. But no, I want to surround myself with people that I can be myself with, and again, even internally, I want it to be. You're not saying your friends, yeah, you are friends, but I want it to be that you've got that good respect, challenge, openness of all of it. Surround yourself with people that want to be
So
in that
how do you
environment.
manage to surround yourself with these people then?
Yeah, well, that is we've gone through phases of not hiring the wrong people, and it's not even the people within the team; it's people we work with outside of it as well. Like I feel like I build a really good set of people that I will chat with. The podcast has been amazing for me to be some genuine connections. Really has helped build relationships. I think it's spending time with people, and just I feel like I can judge someone if I've spent some time with them, and you can be yourself around them. That's the big marker for me, is that they feel that they can be themselves around me, and vice versa. And I think another thing is just finding people that complement the things that I don't like doing or I don't feel I'm as good at is really important, and that's several books have helped me with that mindset. But like with interview, it's hard with interviews, because how do you really know someone in a? You spend 3 hours with them before offering them a job. So it's like with Dom. Dom came on placement with us for 6 months, and I got to know him in that time period. For one, it showed me how committed he was to coming over from Leeds as part of his placement. And straight away it was like, well, he's good. Like, he's really committed. He's like got energy, and he's really committed to it. So that was quite easy for me to say, let's offer him a job. Katie, I knew a little bit beforehand, and that was quite easy. Mary, who was with us for a bit, I knew her from the tennis club. The others, it is hard. It's difficult to do that, and it is sort of a bit of trial and error.
So how did you get Emily?
So Emily was from a recruitment agent. So my friend runs a recruitment agent for executive assistants, and I really trust Lily. She's great. She's doing well with her company, and so I just said, let's try it with that. And as soon as Emily came through, I had a good sense of her that she was good. She actually had some bizarre link with Mum's in. She'd had a link with Katie. There was some connection there, so that always helps. And I like getting the rest of the team involved in recruitment as well, and getting their views on people, because they're going to be working with them. So Emily's been great, and just good connection with her. She's just a really solid, enthusiastic, positive, driven person who wants to achieve. Like, I remember we went and did the park run with her, Gabby and I, a few months ago, and just watching her determination at the end, I absolutely loved it. And she was a bit embarrassed by it because she was kind of like, she wasn't happy with her time. But I just absolutely loved it at the end. She was absolutely sprinting, and she's so driven and competitive, and wants to do really good things. And she's great balance for me, because someone will text me, there's a problem with the machine, or we need something, and instantly within me I'm like panic mode, almost to the extent is like, oh God, this business, is this even going to, that's my instant thought, is like, oh my God, this machine's rubbish. That's just my irrational thing. And then speak to Emily, oh yeah, no, that's fine, put it through to me. And whereas I'm thinking, right, we've got to drive to Scotland. There was this case where there was something in Scotland, they needed it. Everyone always needs everything now, instantly, of course they do. They want their thing top priority. And I was like, right, I'll drive to Scotland and do this. And this is not that long ago, by the way. And she's just like, right, just let me deal with it. That's ridiculous. We'll get it to them tomorrow. That's fine. Just let me deal with that. And it's like, yeah, actually, that's a lot more sensible to do it that way. So getting people around you that can complement. I'm definitely not saying that my reaction's the right thing, but I think that does help. I'm never going to be satisfied with whatever we're doing. I'm always looking for, how do we push, improve, develop, grow, challenge, all of it.
So do you think that the nature of your relationship with them, which is a close one, and you do things, you go away on away days, and you seem very close to them, but is there a danger at times when you've got to make difficult decisions that it's hindered by the relationship you have with them?
Yeah, I think it definitely can be on it, and that's something which I think I'm actively working on for me, is being, and I'm trying to create this role now where one of the big things for the company was actually getting the accountability right. And a couple of years, about 18 months or so ago, I'd read this book called Traction, which the guys at Vistage had recommended to me. And I hadn't read it for ages, but I read it and was like, God, this is amazing. This is actually giving me a blueprint of how to set the company up in a correct way, with accountability, who's responsible for what, who takes ownership. And it was saying to free me up as what they call it is the visionary, to allow me to look at big relationships, strategic things, the future of the company, culture, those creative type things. But you need someone called the integrator, who does all of the accountability, manages people, whereas I'm leading, they're managing, so the difference is there. And they help the company run, make sure it doesn't run out of money, all of those things. And Emily was on maternity at the time. And as soon as she came back, she got a promotion pretty much straight away.
Had you been doing that job up
I
until
was
then?
like, oh my God. That was honestly the hardest time of the whole
Right.
bit for me, was because we actually had a really good sales quarter, but it was like I was dealing with payroll, I was doing all of this stuff and I didn't want to do that. And that's not what I want to be out there doing those things, because I feel that's where I add most value. So I am going to answer the question that you asked, it's creating that culture of candour, genuine feedback, challenge, coaching, development. That's one of our values, is commitment to growth. And that's being able to give that feedback. It may not be particularly pleasant at the time, but it's always given in a way of care. You're not saying this to be mean or in an emotional setting. You're trying to help improve. And the same for me. Like, it's because I am open with people. It's like, well, how do we look at this stuff together? But having Emily, who's say monitoring those KPIs or certain things, really helps me, and then I can help support them. And how do I help develop Dom and Emily, because they're managing the other guys? How do I help them improve that, because their experience of managing people is limited as well. So everyone's learning all the time with all of this stuff. So yeah, creating that environment where people do embrace challenge, as well as support is important. And I think I am more on that. I'm definitely more on that supportive side, like positive. Whereas you do need the balance of that challenge piece as well, because I know that everyone in the team, they want to be good, they want to grow, and if you're not doing that, then you're not actually helping them or the company or me.
One of the things I remember us talking about was about people being flexible in their roles, and that if they stick too rigidly to their job description, sometimes when a job needs doing, they don't see it as their job. So do you still have job descriptions?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting point on job descriptions, because the more stuff I read and hear about is that in these big tech companies, they're like, job descriptions are a complete waste of time. It's you've got to do loads of different things, and to some extent I agree with that. Like when people ask me what my role is, it's like I don't know. I think they call me director, founder, CEO, whatever it is. Doesn't really mean anything. I think as long as you're clear on what your responsibilities are, the title shouldn't matter. But I know it does. For some people, it does, and they want to have a title, and that's also fine.
But you can have a title, but then once you start to delineate, these are the jobs that I do, there may be a moment where you say, so I don't do that or that or that, but you as the boss may need somebody at that point to do those jobs. Does that ever appear?
Yeah, no, it does, and I think it's trying to work out, well, what is actually, the question is, what we're trying to achieve, and then looking at it that way, rather than I'm not really of that mindset of do that, and it's probably too much so sometimes is, look, just figure it out, which I think sometimes people will need more of a decisive thing, do that, and some people respond better to it. I think it's trying to understand what you're trying to achieve, and then figuring out a solution as to what that may be.
So you're coming across today as very enthusiastic. That's how I feel. I know sometimes you have some of the darker thoughts about things, but we all do. How do you see the company progressing from here?
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I think that the big piece for me is being able to have that, knowing that the company is going to be looked after by Dom and Emily. That's what I love, having that, where Dom's managing the sales number and that piece. Emily's looking after the operations and the general day-to-day running. I mean, the fact they're both in China today, I think is great. They're all...
Who's in China?
Dom and Emily are in China.
They're actually in China. You didn't tell me that.
Well, yeah, no, they're
I need to know these things.
So they're overseeing one of our suppliers.
Right. Is that the place you went to last
so
year?
I was there
whenever it was.
2 years ago, amazingly. It's absolutely flown by. So they're over there seeing one of the suppliers, and I like the fact that they're having that opportunity to go and do that.
So how does this relationship between America and China affect you? Does it affect you at all?
That is an interesting question. That's one of their remits, has become one of their remits to find out more about that.
Right.
So yeah, but still figuring that bit out, really.
Okay. And you had the South Korean political issue recently, another world uncertainty for a while.
But there's, not that I'm that old, but I've seen in my time, so there's always negativity, there's always problems, there's never any money, there's always challenges, there's always this, there's always that, and it's just like, look, that's just what it is. And I think whatever way you look at it is the way it is. So if you, like for example, the NHS is a good example of it. In the NHS, it is a bit of a slog, I think, for a lot of the people in there, and yet there's one or two people that we work with that they get stuff done.
In the NHS?
In the NHS, they make it happen, and they just do it, whereas I think other people might be saying, no, don't do that, can't do that, I don't get paid for that. Whereas I think it's all about that mindset of, no, look, we're doing this, and they're the people I'm always trying to surround myself with, not just because they'll buy our equipment, but just because I enjoy it, and you're looking at creative solutions. And the NHS isn't as big a thing for us anymore. We do a lot more in private, which is more probably in my line of helping other business owners and a lot, with sports teams as well. Um, so it's really exciting. If I think of when I first started, it was pretty much all NHS. Like 80% of the work that we sold into was NHS universities, whereas now it's completely shifted where it's 80% private practice. Elite sport's always been a big one for me and will continue to be so. And then the rest made up by a bit of NHS, university, military, those sort of things.
And you've told me about some of the things that you did, like with the military. That sounded quite an amazing experience when you went to the rehabilitation centre. I've forgotten what it was called. Where you
Headley
met
Court.
Headley Court, and you met soldiers with limbs missing and just horrendous injuries, and the thought that you might be able to help those people is quite amazing for me. That you're involved in that. So forget the glamorous side of the sporting world. There's that other side as well of helping people in great distress. Do you still get the thrill though when you go into these sports clubs and meet whoever within those sports clubs? Does it still give you the buzz that you did in the early days?
Yeah, no, it does. Like going to Blackburn today, it's great, and they're not. I don't know as many of the players as I would have done back then. I remember going in with that Robbie Savage and BT and all of those people. Like I still get excited if I go to a stadium, and I love it if I go in and I see the pitch. I get excited by that. Same with training grounds, but I think I've always felt quite privileged to go into any business, like even whether it's a private clinic or a sports team. I've always felt, I don't know what the word is really, but I've always felt maybe it is privileged that these people are giving up their time to speak to me, and that I've naturally felt that. And I find it really interesting. I was at a clinic in Cheshire today, and just it's really good because you can hear these people that are really passionate about what they're doing, and I'm in there hearing it. I think I'm in a really privileged and unique position that I can't imagine anyone who visits more clinics than I do in the UK and internationally. So I get to see the full spectrum of what's happening from the technology. It's sort of interesting to me, but that's not really my passion. It's not the tech, it's the whole thing around it. How does it all work? So yeah, I love going into every environment. So I absolutely with sport I am.
And the other thing that you're quite a small business, I would guess, compared to some of these international businesses that have got massive budgets. So there's a plus and a minus to that situation, I think. How do you deal with these big companies with huge budgets? How do you compete with them?
Yeah, I don't think we're trying not to compete with anyone really. It's like we're doing what we're doing. And I think there's a lot of stuff where people just do it because that's what they've done. Going to conferences or trade shows. I did used to enjoy it because it was actually I enjoyed the practice of going out and talking to people and doing that. But really for me, I don't think that productive. I like the idea of us being more harmonious and linked in the community, whereas I feel like those trade shows are all about, well, industry is here, you got the clinician there, they don't really want to talk to you because, you're trying to sell them something.
Yeah.
It's like, how do we work on moving the whole industry forward together? So it's getting out and speaking to people. We do our own training sessions now, run our own education, which I think is much more beneficial than going and doing a sales pitch on something, is that we're trying to add value by educating people as to why this may work for them. So the standard thing is, it's advertising, it's that traditional stuff, which for me, it's actually, how do I love going out and hearing what people are trying to achieve. And if I think we can help them, then we'll do it.
My guess is now with the all the different forms of communication, it's probably easier for a small company to be out there. You don't have to have massive advertising campaigns. I'm guessing. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, no, Google ads. We do Google ads. You do those things, but I mean, they're always going to have miles bigger budgets.
Yeah.
Whenever people say, "What's your budget?" Most of the time, it's like, "Well, as far as I'm concerned, nothing. We've got no budget for this stuff."
Right.
Now, Katie and Emily might disagree with that because they actually run that department. But in my mind, is like sometimes I do think it's a bit lazy to just be throwing money at stuff. There's other things that you can be doing that are genuinely move it forward. Whereas if you think of that money is going out of the industry almost, how could you do things that are keeping it within the healthcare industry of, I don't know, supporting with training or raising the standards that way? Whenever you go into these trade shows, it's got some good avenues that it gets you in front of people, but it's not actually helping the profession, I don't think.
No.
It's like, well, that money's coming from somewhere, and that could for sure be spent better.
Better. Okay. I'm conscious of time, so I don't know how we're getting on for time.
I don't know.
I'm also conscious that you spoke very effusively about some members of staff, and you haven't mentioned some others, and I know you value all of them. I know that. So would you like to say anything about those that you haven't mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, the team's really important to me. Like when I think of what I wanted the company to be, and I'm always trying to figure out what do I want this to be. Essentially, I want it to be a great company to work for and a great company to work with, and I really mean that. So I want people from the outside to think, oh yeah, Physiquipe are great. They really help us with this. They're honest, genuine, supportive. And then within the team, I really don't like the idea of people saying, oh, happy Friday, or, you know, don't get me wrong, I know that people like the weekend and I like the weekend, but I want people to enjoy the job. I want them to really think this is a great place to work, not because it's easy and you get to do what you want to do, but you come in and you're challenging, you're all working hard, you're doing it together, we're solving big problems, we're doing positive things with people that are inspiring. And that's what I want from everyone that we've got there. And so people like Caitlin, who's, you know, she's internship basically, but she'll end up staying with us, doing social media. She's great and really creative, and at the start of her journey, she's still got another year of university, but she'll be doing both while she's
Great
going back.
experience for her, I imagine.
Well, you know, I really think she does enjoy it. That's Anisia's daughter, so that's amazing. I've known her pretty much her entire life, albeit a lot closer in the last year or so since she's been with us. And then Michael, who's, you know, a very interesting. You've not met Michael, have you?
No, I haven't. No.
You'll remember him when you met him.
I've seen a picture of him. He looks a powerful bloke.
He's a big man. But no, he's great. Like, he's so enthusiastic, and he's just great with customers, and he's a great extension of who we are. And that, again, that's important. Everyone will message, like they know him. If he's been in, he's got the loudest Scouse voice you ever heard, which was we were concerned about when we went to watch the Everton-Brentford game a few weeks ago. We were a little bit concerned, but it was absolutely fine. But yeah, just great energy, really positive, wants to do a good job. And then Niall, who's joined us in the last few months, again, pretty much from university, some experience clinically. But again, he throws himself in. He wants to do the clinical demonstrations, can really add value, was doing demos straight from the off. Impressive. You know, it's good. And my expectations are always quite high on things. But again, when you reflect on it, it's like we're actually doing really well. And then Katie, who I've mentioned a couple of times, I knew Katie when she'd come on some of our courses, and Dom and I had gone to sell to her, basically at one of her clinics that she was working at. And then she outreached to me in COVID to say, have we got any jobs? So that was really flattering for me that someone who I really rated wanted to come and join us. So me, Dom and Mary were all very excited when she said, hey, Katie Emmett wants to join us.
And I think, again, something that I noticed about you compared to when you were younger, where you were in retreat, really, you wouldn't push yourself forward at some point. And now you can see much more clearly what you want for your work and reflect on what you are like, and how different it is. So that leads me on to the question is, there's a lot of potential in young people. they don't necessarily realise that they've got that potential and it needs bringing out. One of the thoughts I had was about your education, and if there were people that could have come into your school environment or college environment to talk about their experiences, somebody like you, but it could be anybody, and they don't have to be superstars, but just their experience of the world. And if that, do you think, would have been helpful if somebody like you or any of these other people, like who's the one who's got Victoria Plumbing?
Oh yeah.
Just come in and say, look, I was in the situation you were in, and now I'm doing this, 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 and this. And would that have been inspirational, do you think?
Well, I think, and this is going to go in the book, is that there's so much focus on academic success and things, and it's important, it is, but it's that actually being able to converse with people, be reliable. I think there's a lot of basic things that make you can be successful, however you define that. So yeah, I mean, would I have listened to those people? Maybe. I still remember some stories of what the teachers used to say of people that would come back. So maybe I would, and maybe you need a few people to come in and do that. Yeah, well, I think that stuff is very important to help give people different ideas.
Yeah, maybe I've got it wrong. Perhaps I think it's more important. But I met at a funeral, I met Marcus Waring, who used to be a pupil at the school I taught at. And he's, for those in the world of culinary arts, he's a big name. And I asked him if the school had ever invited him back in any capacity, and they hadn't. And that made me think, well, is that a wasted opportunity? And so that made me think about Birkdale High School and all of the lads who went there and the different things they've done with their lives. And I just somehow felt that it would be a good thing, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think definitely. We got someone. Again, it depends how you define it. Like he's very well known, isn't he, within his industry? But no, I think it does. I think it is. It's really good to have role models of people that you think actually they've really done well.
Or would they just see this old bloke, as they see it as a child, it's just this old bloke blathering on the stage? But
I don't know, really.
Certainly, I mean, you can get sports stars and all these things, but there's not many people are going to become sports stars. But they can become business people. And so somebody like you, who's a business person, you're not a sports star, as you said when you went, was it to the training ground of Liverpool or Everton? You're a no-mark in their terms.
Yeah.
But talk about the experiences that you've had, that as an old boys school, that would really impress me, that you can go into these stadiums and Manchester United or wherever it is, Celtic, and other things that you've done. And I'd have thought, wow, okay, if he can do that, maybe why can't I do that?
Well, I think there's very basic things that anyone could do that you can make yourself be successful, or certainly give yourself opportunities. I really enjoy. I've made everything that I've got from working. Certainly, well, that early role from IPRS, it's given me loads of opportunities, but I've taken them and driven it and made it to what it is. So yeah, I think that sort of thing can help people.
Could help.
Gives them ideas.
Just a thought. The other thing I remember is you talking about interviewing for a job with you, graduates. So 21, successful. When I say successful, whatever that means, but academically achieved at some high level. And yet, when it came to interview, there was nothing that you could see in them that made you want to employ them.
I know, yeah. Well,
as personalities, I mean.
I think my whole philosophy's changed on like recruitment now, because I always used to say CV, that is so important. Whereas now it'd be much more meet them. It's based on them as people and how they come across, how they engage. Energy is, I think, a big one for me. Is if come in, it's like I want people that can come in and like they're up for it. Because that's determination, all of those things. That's what I like to see. And that's the biggest stuff. Like I remember Dom being in there in our clinic that we had, we had some of these sort of bandages that I'd bought them and we hadn't sold them. And he came in and said, "Oh yeah, no, I'll shift that lot for you."
Right.
I sort of looked at him and thought, oh, "That's interesting." Now he sold none of them, but the fact is,
What
he
did you
came
do?
in.
What did
and
you
he said
do with
that.
them?
I think we binned them in the end, to be honest. But yeah,
But he did get rid of them then.
he did. Yeah, well, I think I had to bin them.
Or did you bin
I
them?
think
He
I had
didn't
to
even
do
do
it.
that. Okay.
So, but I admired his.
Yeah.
He got something.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Your mum would have done that.
Mum actually would have sold them.
Yeah,
that's
she
the
would.
thing.
She would have.
She would have got it
yeah,
done.
She would have done.
But no, I think the traits that I think I've definitely inherited traits from you in terms of asking a lot of questions and being genuinely interested in people. And then mum's stuff is like, come on, I want to get it done. I want to be on it. Going out, doing photos with people, all of that stuff. I think I've got the combined traits of you.
And I, again, it's your dad speaking, and you can have driven me mad at times, although I always loved you. But it's such a delight for me to see you as you are, and where I feel a real trust in you and support from you. And you're such a genuine person and not out for yourself. But in doing what you do, it benefits you as well. And so it's just a real pride that I feel in you. And I know your mum feels the same. And I don't know whether that's a good time to end this.
No, well, again, I
don't
feel...
get too emotional. I don't want to start crying.
No, well, I think for my I couldn't have had a better time growing up.
And that shocks me, see, when you say that. Because
I couldn't. Well, I mean, I'm talking about with you, Mum and Dave, particularly, and Auntie Claire and Auntie Isabel, like that. I couldn't have had a more supportive thing. Sometimes you say, "Is it too supportive?"
Yes, yeah. Well,
you know what I mean? Like
overprotective. And
however, I ultimately am. Dave's great. Dave's doing really well with all of his stuff, and we've got a really good tight knit community and family, and I love that. And I know I'm a really solid, genuine person that is loyal and all of that, and that's come from you guys. So so I feel very lucky to have had that upbringing. So, and thank you for doing this as well. So throw it on you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Take care.
Well done.